Hey everybody, Chuck Barone here on a fabulous Friday, June the 28th, 2024. Welcome everybody to the show. It's going to be a humdinger today, man. Wow, we had a very busy Supreme Court this morning. We had the craziest friggin' presidential debate I have ever seen last night. All kind of crazy stuff. We got a lot of data coming in today. We have all kind of interesting stuff to talk about. Hopefully, I won't go rambling on too far past my usual 18 minutes or so. There's just a lot of stuff to talk about today. Before I get rambling, though, let me take a half a second. As always, welcome everybody to the show. Thank all my friends on the chat going here. My buddies Wolf, Attila, Salty, Donna, Zoot, Para, all the way from Australia. Guys who are here every day. I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate it. Nice to see you, Kevin, and all kind of good friends on this today. It's going to be a fun show. All right, so before I get rolling into the economic stuff, I'm sure most of you guys watched that debate last night, right? Have you ever seen anything like it, guys? Crazy. Biden, I mean, the guy, my mom's 85 and is a typical 85-year-old. Guys, Biden looked like he was 185. He looked like he didn't even really know where he was. Just maybe the worst performance on a presidential debate stage by a sitting president I've ever seen. Hate to say it, guys, but Trump mopped the floor with him. He actually managed to restrain himself. I think the format actually worked better for Trump than it did for Biden, which is kind of funny. But he looked, calm, cool, stayed on point, even though he did fib a little, as he's prone to do. He just kicked his ass, man. So now today you got the Democrats, oh my God, freaking out like freaking crazy. We have to replace, you got, the thinking part of the party. We need to replace this guy. And you got the we will follow orders part of the party saying, no, this one bad debate doesn't. Let me say this. That was worse than a bad debate, guys. Okay. The truth of the matter is, and I don't typically get political here, right? I'm just talking in generalities. If one candidate looks presidential and manages to really get through the whole thing without taking many shots, and the other guy looks like he doesn't know where he is, you can pretty much tell the outcome of where that election's going. I'm telling you right now, no matter what they've been talking about as far as the debate of this politics, taxes, environment, climate change, EVs, boppity beepity boppity boop. Now there's only one topic this whole election, and that's, is Biden fit for office? And that is going to be all we're hearing about now between now and November. And the truth of the matter is, he did not look. Now, I'm only going by what I saw yesterday. He looked like a completely different guy on the campaign trail today, right? I'm like, maybe they didn't give him the juice last night because they were expecting everybody to see him all juiced up. But today he did, because he was a different guy today, shouting. Last night he was mumbling. Today he had he had it all in order. I don't know. Maybe the pressure got to him. Maybe the fact that, it was an environment that was not completely tailor-made to cover up his warts. But what a debate and what a disaster for poor Joe Biden. All right, moving on. Now let's talk economics here, because that's what this show is all about. Oh, by the way, one last thing. After watching that debate last night, I got to admit, I never really have considered Bobby Kennedy at all. But I think I might have to take a look, because at least he's a guy who's talking about the working class, working people. I didn't really hear either guy get into that much last night. And so maybe we got to take a look at a third party. I hate to you don't think a third party candidate can win, and I don't either. But how do you vote for either one of those two knuckleheads? Jesus, man. Anyway, on to economics. We got our PCE today. Number came in very favorable for the Fed, even though it's still well above the 2% target. Numbers looking better. You have the consumer incomes up, consumer spending up, but only by that much, which in my mind is really no increase at all. When they get you a 0.1, that's not really much of an increase. even though the media is touting it as an increase. But income's up, spending down, inflation kind of hanging in there where it's I don't know. If it really legitimately is 2.6, which I have my doubts about, maybe if you factor in the stuff we don't buy much, okay, but the stuff we're buying all the time, groceries, gasoline, even clothes, you're not seeing prices come down on the stuff we have to do every single day. At least I'm not. But anyway, the markets reacted today in a very strange way. I would think the markets would have been up heavily with the news we got today because most of it seemed pretty favorable toward the Fed cutting rates. Now the market's pricing in 2 cuts this year, which I'm telling you is not going to happen. But nonetheless, the markets were kind of reacted negatively to it. The Dow Jones falls 45 points, 39,118 on the Dow. The NASDAQ falls 126 points, 17,752. The S&P 500 falls 22 points, 5460. So the stock market, not so great. Bond market also sells off. Yields coming up today. 10-year up 6 basis points, now at 4.34%. The 2-year up 3 basis points, 4.75%. So yields creeping up, even though we're talking rate cuts. The dollar was down today, fractionally, down 6 bips on the index, sitting at 105.86, still below the 106 number. Gold and silver had a weird day today, though, didn't they, guys? I mean, gold comes down $4.90, not much of a move. $2,340.50 for an ounce of gold. Well, silver rallies. Silver up 9 cents, $29.01 for an ounce of silver. We need to see silver get above that $30 mark. Here's what's interesting. I was looking at this today. Let me read my writing. Gold is up $415.70 so far this year, more than 20%. And it's leading everything. Now, even the mighty NASDAQ and the S&P, which are up about 15% each, can't touch gold. Even though gold hasn't really been able to get back to those highs, having still a great year. Oil today falls minus 22 cents for a barrel of West Texas Intermediate, $81.52. So it's still, I think, too high. But there was actually even an article today about demand in the U.S. for gasoline falling. I think oil prices are going to come down once they get to real demand and they see the inventory starting to pile up. Oil going to come down. Bitcoin falls today, down $1,298. Takes a hit today, 60,108 for Bitcoin. Still a strong number, but nowhere near the 72,000 it was. Still a good strong number for Bitcoin, though, which was around $15,000 earlier this year. So you still got a floor bagger there. There's the market today, guys. A weird day, right? All right, so let's talk about this PCE index. So this is what the Fed was waiting for. The whole market was waiting for this. Numbers show inflation coming down. Top line number, 2.6%. Core number, 2.6%. The top line number was flat, was 2.6 last month, sorry. The core number came down to 2.6 from 2.8. So good number on, inflation there. Core rose, nothing really happening. Now, these are the best inflation numbers since March of 2021, when inflation started actually ratcheting up. And that's the first month that the inflation number topped 2%. It's been above there ever since. So that's kind of I guess, in a weird kind of way, 2.6 is maybe the best we're going to get right now. The Fed yo-yo is out talking like always, saying that, ooh, look, things are working. I'm not so sure about that right now, but the core PCE numbers today, we were talking about this on the show. I told you guys I figured this number was going to come in favorably for them. Now let's see what CPI looks like. Next week, we'll get jobs numbers for this month. That's going to be interesting to see what that turns out to be like. All kind of interesting stuff. All right, so more news on the economy. We got inflation. We got numbers on inflation, which we just talked about. Other good news for consumers for a change. Incomes were up 0.5% last month, half of 1%. That's a good number. They were expecting 0.4, so they were expecting incomes up, still beating that number. At the same time, spending only rose 0.2%. Now, they were looking for a much bigger number. They were looking for at least 0.4%. Didn't work out. Consumers, even though they're making more income, starting to close their wallet. We've been talking about that on the show many, many times as well. Consumers are spending the money they have to spend, but they're getting rid of all the extra stuff. Consumer spending slowing down, which is exactly what the Fed wants. They want to engineer this soft landing where they can have basically the economy coming down, slowing inflation, at the same time not going negative and creating a recession. I don't know if they're going to be able to pull that off. I have my doubts, as I've expressed them a million times on this show. But interesting set of data today, right? Also, we got consumer sentiment today. Now, consumer sentiment rose to 68.2. That's a good number for, lately. It was only 65.6, right? Listen to this, guys. Pre-pandemic, the consumer sentiment number was 101.5. So what does that tell you? Even though consumer sentiment is up off the floor like a fighter who's getting knocked down for the 10th time in a fight, getting up, it's nowhere near what's normal, which is around 100. Okay, so even though these numbers are looking like they're a little bit better, they're nowhere near normal. Consumers still feeling very negatively about this economy, about inflation. Consumers seeing inflation higher than 3% all through next year. Now, we'll see if this works out with these PCE numbers, but consumers still expecting elevated inflation, still expecting elevated rates, even though the market's factoring in rate cuts. Interesting set of data today, guys. Very interesting set. All right, let's look. Demand for gasoline. I was talking about that earlier. This is the lowest demand number for gasoline we've had this year. I guess consumers, either more EVs on the road and not using gasoline, consumers canceling summer road trips. I don't know, because they didn't really explain what the lack of demand was, just pointing out that lack of demand. And now they're worried about China with their possible recession coming. I should say probable recession coming. If China and the U.S. both demand tanks in both of those places, oil prices are going to tank with them. Fed Governor Daly. Did you see her out today, man? These Fed governors, it pisses me off when they think we're all idiots, right? And they always do this. They assume that they're the smart ones and we're the dumb ones. So Daly's saying, Fed policy is working. Look, Fed policy is working. It's just taking longer than we thought to get to where we are. Well, let me ask you this, guys. Help me out in this chat. If things are taking longer than you thought to work, and they're not where you want them to be after 2 friggin' years, wouldn't that be a sign that things aren't working more than a sign that they are? I don't know. Call me crazy, but these Fed yo-yos, they just keep going. JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon out today saying that the Fed stress test was not exactly accurate and that they should have had more losses than the Fed showed in their stress test. Very unusual for an institution, especially a big one like JP Morgan, to come out and contradict the Fed like that, saying that no, they estimated our losses too low. Most institutions are going to complain they estimated the losses too high, not the other way around, right? All right, so let's talk about Chevron. Guys, this is an interesting decision the Supremes came up with today. Now, with Chevron, let's give you some background. The way it works is the government, the Congress, writes the laws. Then the agencies administer those laws. Department of Education, you got, alcohol, firearms, you got, the EPA, you got all these different government agencies. Well, Chevron was a 1984 ruling by the Supremes that said that if a case comes up, you have to defer to the Fed agency. So you have to, if there's a dispute about pollution, the EPA gets the benefit of the doubt in the interpretation of the law, as long as it's within reason that that interpretation looks like kind of what the Congress intended when they wrote the law. Now, that's been precedent for 40 years. The courts mentioned Chevron in that ruling more than any other ruling in shooting down cases. Okay. So now what that means is these agencies are not going to be able to just bully everybody around because they got the benefit of the judiciary behind them. Now they're actually going to have to justify their actions. It's going to make these agencies administering these laws much more difficult, and that's probably a good thing. I mean, these agencies are a little bit full of bureaucrats, not elected people, so there's no accountability there, right? And they kind of administer these rules the way they see them, not so much according to the law. Especially over the course of 40 years, they've gotten further and further away from what the law really means. So this is actually going to hopefully turn out to be a good thing for the country. Time for these knuckleheads, time for, number one, the Congress to write the laws a little bit better so there really is to make it clear what they intend with that law, rather than leaving it to the interpretation of these federal agencies, right? So Chevron in 84, courts should side with the federal agencies on interpretations of a law, all right? So now what's going to happen is these knuckleheads come in and try to unreasonably interpret a law. They're going to end up in a lawsuit. So now of course, the Democrats freaking out about this, complaining that now you're going to get away from the agencies making law to the courts and I don't see it that way. What it does is it forces the Congress, these freaking do-nothing knuckleheads, to be clear, less ambiguous on what they intend when they write a new law, if they ever do that again. So this is an interesting ruling. Now, the case itself that broke this was the case of some herring fishermen. And herring, I guess they're worried that herring are going to be endangered. They're overfishing them. So they insisted that these fishermen actually pay to have a monitor on their ships while they're doing this fishing. And they have to pay for the expense for this themselves. They sued, said it's not fair, bada bing, bada boom. Guess what? They were right. And this is an example of how these agencies go just 1, 2, 5, 20, 100 steps too far in interpreting these laws. The Congress did not say they could charge these people to put somebody on their boat, a government agent on their boats, so that they can monitor their activities and make sure they're not cheating the law. That's not in the law anywhere. But these agencies added it to the law. Today, the Supremes decided that doesn't work. So there you have it, guys. The craziest friggin' day of the year in my mind, guys. So now we got a crazy-ass presidential race. It's going to get even crazier because now you got the Democrats. It's funny to me that the Democrats, before it was the Republicans saying Biden's too old. Now the Republicans are like, we love Biden, keep him in the race. And you got the Democrats saying, uh-oh, maybe Biden needs to go. And he's not going to voluntarily walk away from the job. So I really don't see this actually happening unless maybe his wife and his family get in his ear and tell him, look, Joe, you're embarrassing yourself. You're destroying your legacy in the country. Time to step aside. The only problem is, who do the Democrats go to that have any chance at all against Trump? Kamala Harris? Not a chance. Gavin Newsom? You think they're going to elect some knucklehead from California as president? No way. Pritzker from Illinois? No chance. Trump would eat him alive with fat jokes. It would be hilarious to watch it. So the Dems have really nobody that they can put up against him. They're probably going to lose this cycle. So why not let them lose with the guy who's expendable anyway, because Biden's all done with election politics. So that's it, guys. A crazy week. finishing with the craziest freaking day ever, man. That debate, I was watching it, it was so cringeworthy. The look on Biden's face, I mean, he just looked like slack jawed. I didn't, somebody commented that he looked like he was roofied, which was pretty accurate and made me laugh. I kind of felt sorry for the guy, though, because, Biden's been in politics a long, long, long time. And he really, in my mind, is a decent guy. Is he presidential material? Well, that's debatable. But to see him come down from one of the most talkative, clever, sharp speakers, never was a great public speaker, but decent, to where he was last night was just a jolt. And I guess that turns the whole race up on its head, man. Crazy times. All right, guys. Anyway, thank you, everybody, for being on the chat today. We appreciate you guys. I still haven't got the hang of trying to look into the camera and read this stuff at the same time. But I think Salty and I had the right idea yesterday. I think a slap fight between the two would have been much more fun to watch than that freaking hour and a half of torture. Next week, who knows what the heck it's going to bring for us, guys. Crazy times are upon us. Going to get crazier as we move more and more into this election season. We're going to be here to bring you guys all the news you need. Thank you, everybody, for your participation in the chat. Thanks, everybody, for your likes. Thanks, everybody, for your comments and all you guys do for the show every day, man. We really, 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 really appreciate you guys. Monday is another day, guys. We'll be back to bring you the news you need. Everybody have a great weekend. Stay away from politics. Stay away from Wall Street. Relax. Spend time with your family. Have a cold drink because it's super freaking hot outside everywhere. Back on Monday for more crazy. Until then, everybody, have a great weekend. Thanks.